This is Bill here at the second day of the summit, and I'm just doing a little presentation here on something that a lot of people just, give me a chance here, because I think a lot of people are going to kind of poo-poo this, because it's something. The whole reason why I want to bring it up is because it's gotten a really bad rap, like tied into the New Age stuff and things like that. And I think something for me that's wound up unbelievably important is something, and I'm going to say this in the most argumentative way possible, is something that a lot of people will call like the power of positive thinking. But I think people like twist it on its head and they turn wishful thinking into positive thinking. And what I'm talking about is not like wishing on something and then saying and hoping that it becomes true. I'm talking about flipping things around in your head. At a most basic level, and any animal trainer will teach you this, is that you can't ever tell a dog, don't do this, don't do that, or a child. Like, you don't want to say, you want to look for the positive and say, do this. So, you don't want to tell the dog, don't pee on the carpet. You tell the dog, you pee over here on the paper or outside or whatever. And when you start applying this to your life and flipping everything around, even like when challenges come up, instead of saying, oh shit, this bad thing happened, you flip that around to, oh my God, there's this great opportunity for me to learn something and grow. And so when you start, like, even little stuff in your, even not even just talking and dealing with other people, and because I've done this, but even in your day-to-day life, when you go around and you find yourself, and when you're thinking, just flip, anytime you start thinking something in a negative way, you just think, how can I flip this around and look at it instead of, hey, I don't want to do this thing, I want to do this other thing. Because even like when, from my motorcycle racing thing, you cannot, on a motorcycle, look at something like a pothole or a board in the road or a piece of chain that fell off a truck and look at that thing and then say, I need to avoid that. You have to go, oh, that's there, this is where I need to go. And you focus your attention not on the negative aspect, on the positive thing, like, this is my path, this is where I go, this is how I get around something. And when you do it even to a minute level in your everyday life, and you find yourself thinking about things negatively and flip and just looking for where's the positive path out of this, not like some feel-good kind of positive thing, but the actionable, not the negative, don't do this, but the positive, do this. If I don't want this thing in my life, instead of saying I don't want it, where's the out path? Where's the pothole? Where's the path around the pothole kind of thing? And I've done it in my life, and it's had, when you follow it through religiously and start micromanaging your thought process like that, I think the thing I originally heard was like 90 days, it starts having unbelievable results in your life. And I just kind of wanted to throw that out there to everybody and see if anybody has any experiences with that or saw, because when I tried it, it just kind of opened up my life. And has anybody ever, am I out on a limb here? Or?
I've heard that that's a very...
You got to go up and talk into it.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, just go up and talk to him. Just leave him there. Yeah.
I've heard
right into his mouth.
I've heard that that's like a big, powerful thing, and that is like one of those things that has a pretty immediate and permanent change, something like that.
But nobody here has ever tried that.
Well, I got to say that I'm like a huge go with the flow kind of guy, and I like to put myself in the position where everyone has the same mutual goal. And like, this is chime time, by the way. Like, I go to like a lot of festivals. Last year I went to 53 shows and festivals, and most of the time when people go to these events, they're looking for fun, and it's like I feel like it just attracts fun the more people have like a mutual goal in mind. And
so you're saying more than one person. He's saying one person. Now you're saying, like, if two people have this together, then that can be good. Something like this.
Yeah. And part of what I like to do is get as many people as possible to be positive together, or just have like something like, oh, we're going to do this, or sometimes like not focus on this, or we're going to get through this really quickly and we're going to get back to the fun, with that goal and objective in mind of looking at the positive things. So I absolutely do this in my everyday life, as well as when I'm participating in my own program.
Yeah, because when I say positive, I'm talking about in the most, not in the feeling sense, in the most literal sense, but it can go into the feeling sense too. But because a lot of people think, when they wish on something, they think, oh, I want this thing, and that's not really a positive thought, that's a negative thought, because it's a thought of supplication, it's a thought of lack. You're thinking, I don't have this thing, so I want it. And if you change that around to not what you don't have, but I'm working, like, here's my goal, and here's how I'm going to get there, and here's how I'm going to work towards that.
I just want to add this, that Bill's a professional racer. It was a professional racer for a long time.
Yeah.
So you're talking about not just something off the internet. You actually, that's like a key thing in racing, right?
Oh, for sure.
Is that you have to pick the line that you want, and even if there's something in the way or there's somebody there,
You look
you
at
just
where you're going.
you don't notice that. You just see the line where you want to go. So he's not talking about a general idea. He's talking about something very specific that can save your life, right? In your
Well, in
profession.
the racing sense, yeah. But I mean, even in like the day-to-day stuff, like a lot of people, they say you hear like this Catholic thing where people say every prayer is answered, and they get these thoughts of supplication in their brain about how they want this, and they start focusing on what they don't have, and they consider that like positive thinking or whatever, and it's extremely negative. Like because I'm very productive in my life, even in my work, like I'm very, very, very good at getting things done. That's kind of my specialty. And so when you want to get something done, you have to focus on you can't focus on what we don't have or what's like, okay, action plan, and start knocking things off. And when you start, if you get lost in this, oh my God, we don't have this and we don't have that, and oh, this is going to show up later. It's like, what do we have? What can we do next? What's the path forward? Not what don't we have, what do we have, and how are we going to move forward? And anything we don't have, how are we going to get it there? But it's really hard for me to explain until you really start, like on a micro level, start micromanaging and don't have those negative thoughts in your head. I'm not saying because negative is bad or anything, but just creativity and production comes from this positive focus. And I don't mean positive in good. I mean positive in moving something that can happen as opposed to something that takes away, something that detracts. Making something would be like positive, and then destroying something would be negative. Not that destroying something is bad, like you got to tear a house down to build a new one in its place. I'm just saying when you want to get something done, this whole positive mindset, and it looks like I got a deer in the headlights thing, so I don't think a lot of people are on board with
It
it.
kind of sounds like you're talking about minimalism a bit as well. It sounds like you're talking about like working with what you have.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you?
A little bit.
No,
He's super straight, you guys. Don't mess around.
not.
It's wrong. Just,
It can fit into that. It definitely can fit into that. But no, I'm just talking about making things. I guess you got to play with it in your head to kind of see. But
I know exactly what you're talking about, because I think. Sorry. I think the exact opposite way. Whenever I imagine doing something, I always think like, okay, I need to avoid this thing, or like when I think about getting a job, I need to avoid being broke for this amount of time. I need to, make sure I don't starve. I don't think like, I need to go eat and get a good job. I think the complement of that, like the exact opposite, very negative.
I think it's the exact same thing.
But that's how I think. It's in terms of,
No. But what I'm saying is the exact same thing, because you're saying what you don't want, right? Essentially, what you want is included in the idea.
Yeah.
Because the idea is that you want the opposite of that. It's like very clear. To me, it sounds exactly the same, actually. The way he's saying it.
yeah, but it's really subtle because wanting comes with it this feeling of supplication of I don't have.
What I'm saying is different
Yeah.
personalities
Right.
have a goal. It seems like exact opposite. But to me, it sounds the same. Actually, when I was sitting back there, could be wrong.
And so one way that this has worked out, like before I raced, I wanted to race for a long time. And I would look at it and like, it's so expensive, or am I going to come up with the money? Oh, I need sponsors, I need this. And at one point in time, I just said, I'm going to do this thing. I don't care if it kills me. I don't care. Like nothing's going to get in my way. I'm going to do it. And I'm just going to figure it out. And that's it. And I just made up my mind. And I like had this positive focus. Like, I don't care what comes in my path. Like I'll die trying if I have to. And once I did that, all the times before it, all these roadblocks that would jump in my path just started clearing out of my way. Because I just had this determination, this pot, like I'm going to make this happen. Nothing's going to get in my way. This real positive focus, and not positive in a wishful sense, but in a determined, like, fuck it, like I'm going for broke. And then shit just started happening for me. And I've done this with a lot of things in my life, where when I get rid of the negative, like, oh well, this could hold me back. So what? So what if it does? Then just deal with that when you get there.
It sounds like you're coming from your own energy, and you're not like asking for others for motivation or opinions, or like worried about naysayers to hold you back either.
Right. Yeah, and I've done that in my life, and it's been very powerful for me, and it's how I get shit done. And I was just curious if anybody else had come across that kind of thing, like, because I get caught in these negative traps sometimes, and I just, like, everything stagnates, and I can feel it inside of me. When I get this positive focus, it's something I feel more than I think, where when something's negative and it's not adding to your goal, and you can feel it.
So I want to say something, and then I want Scott to say something, because he's been wanting to say something. This is Chime Time again. Part of what is really cool about my program of traveling around and doing festivals and everything is that I have like mass preparedness going on, and I'm really good at having fun. And in my success in moving towards positive things, it's attracted more positivity and people who also want to be in that positive groove. So like and you could say this about success, like if you're successful, you're likely surrounded by other successful people, or you attract successful people. If you're negative, you attract other negative individuals, and that leads to just more negativity. So it's a lot about creating a groove as much as it is like a formula for success. You know, it could work both ways.
Scotty P, friendly reminder, day 2, Ozark, Ronin Summit, having a great time. Love the topic. Bill, well said. Agree with everything that you said. A couple of points I would like to illustrate. Think about what you think about. What you think about, you bring about. The subconscious mind does not recognize don't and can't, and I can prove it. Don't think of a pink elephant. Think about what you think about. My daughter, she's an angel. She's 17. We're very close. 5 years ago at age 12, I said, baby, why are you not doing this? And she said, I can't afford it. I said, how can you say that? She says, Mom says I can't afford it. I said, bullshit. You always want to be thinking in terms of, when you say you can't afford it, it's lazy thinking. You've already shut down your thinking. Instead, a better question would be, how can I make this happen? How can I afford this? And one last thing, Bill, when you were talking, it reminded me of a horse in a horse race. There's a reason why a horse has blinders on, okay? If the horse doesn't have blinders on in a horse race, it's going to end up in the grandstand and or in the concession stand eating nachos, or at least that's where I would be if I was a horse.
Yeah, no, that was pretty good.
I want to clarify something. I kind of, because actually I can kind of relate to what Sean was saying. I kind of decide what I don't want. And so it actually is the same. Like, hard to explain. It's different than you can't do something. I can't do something, that's a negative. Like that, you have a goal and you just say, well, I can't fucking do it, right? I might have a goal is like, I want to get out of this situation. I don't really know where I want to go.
Yeah.
But it's not like I can't do it. It's not like, oh, I can't go anywhere. It's just, it's a negative, or it's like the negative of the film. It's the exact same picture, right? It's just that this I don't want, right? That's the way my brain works.
That's exactly what
it's
I was
like,
trying to
no
say.
fucking way am I going to stay in this situation. I'm going to find a way to get the fuck out of here.
Yep.
And I don't even know where I'm going. But it's the exact same thing, actually. Just a different personality.
Is that like a trick to like reframe the problem?
I don't know. It's just the way my brain works. It's just like, got to get out of here. Don't like this. And because I know the other options are going to be good, right? You know, are going to be better, right? And I probably have other ideas about what are. I probably have some ideas of what I want to do, but the thing that hits me in the gut, the emotion, is like, move. You know, just get out. Like, don't do this anymore. You know what I mean? Whatever it is. If like stopping drinking, right? Whatever it was, it's like, I don't know what not drinking really is, but I'm not going to drink, right? It's like, I just say, okay, I'm going to stop drinking. Who knows what that means, but I'll just stop, right? And so I think that it's kind of the same thing. It's just that when you're trying to get out of a situation, when you're trying to stop something, when you're trying to, the goal is not like, oh, I'm going to drink more water or something, right? You know, or you know what I mean? I'm just gonna I'm not gonna do this anymore. So I think it's not a positive. It's not a negative or a positive. The negative is like, I can't not drink, or I can't, you know what I mean? I can't keep drinking. Like, that doesn't really work. It's like, I'm not gonna do this anymore. I'm out of here. No fucking way. I don't know where I'm going. I'm jumping off the cliff into the darkness. But this no more. You know.
You brought up a real important but subtle differentiation there, and that is the emotional, the feeling aspect of it, because there's a very fine line between like this, because there's no words to describe what I'm talking about here, but between this, the feeling of supplication, of lack, and determination. And in the same exact situation, you could say the exact same thing. And if you're having this, like, if there's this negative feeling inside of you, you're not going to go anywhere with it. Like this, I don't want this, and you have this negative aspect to it. Or if you say, no, I don't want that, I'm good. I don't want that. I'm out. I tap out. You know, that's like a positive way of doing it. And the differentiation there is completely subtle and totally emotional. But when that lack and that supplication comes in, that's when you get stuck in this drain, and that positive creative energy that you feel inside of you. And this is what I'm talking about. And that's why it's very hard for me to put in words, because it's not just talking or just like these good, it's this positive creative energy that you bring up inside you. And like you're saying, yeah, you can say, I don't want this thing, which is a negative, but you could do it in this like positive energy where you're like, no, I don't fucking want that.
I'm not eating that.
I'm not eating that.
Yeah.
No, not like, oh man, I really don't, I don't want to eat that. Or, no, I'm not fucking eating that. I'll starve if I have to. Like I told you the other day when I went on a trip and I had a cheeseburger from McDonald's because it was 11 p.m. and I put it in, and I wasn't, if I hadn't eaten all day long, and if I didn't eat this cheeseburger, I wasn't going to eat anything till the next morning because I was on the highway and it was 11 p.m. and I was going through a section of highway and I ate it and I spit it back in that thing and I said, I'll fucking starve before I eat that. This is crap. And it's not like, oh my God, I wish I had something else. It was, fuck this. And then that's that positive energy. That's where the creation comes from. That's the creative force.
When I don't leave shitty food in the house. Because I'm gonna eat it, right? No matter what's in my house, I'm gonna eat it.
And you're not going, oh, I don't want to eat that. You're going, fuck it, I'm not going to eat that. Out of here.
And then when I walk into the supermarket, okay, there's all these aisles, right? The outside aisles are where the food is, right? There's the fruits and stuff. So the stuff inside is not human food.
No,
it's like
boxes of wood.
well, like oil and like windshield wipers and stuff. That's all in the middle.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go get the food, and then I'm gonna get out.
Yeah, no. So yeah, he nailed it because we don't have words in our language to exactly describe what I'm talking about here. But I think that the positive thinking thing has gotten a real bad rap, and maybe I'm not choosing the right words there, but there's this creative energy and destructive, and not that the destructive has no place, or I'm not trying to say creative is good and destructive is bad, or positive is good and negative is bad. I'm just like, there's this making and this taking apart. And if you want to move forward and you want to get stuff done, you have to come from this positive energy, this positive feeling, and that supplication is the key, or the lack of it, to not have this I wish or I want, or you make up your mind and you move.
So, chime time again. There's this moment where, in order to get to my goals, and I'm having like a fun time, I have to do something shitty, like I'm at the festival, and maybe I've consumed too much alcohol or something, I don't know. And I'm trying to go to the bathroom, and there's like a line. It's too dark, it's confusing, it smells weird, and I kind of like it's like a gloomy kind of situation. Everyone's got to go through it. You don't have an option. Like, you got to do, if you want to do it right, you got to take this route, and it's a shitty route. And then I laughed to myself because in the name of having fun, I did it to myself again. And I'm even positive about like something so small, or even if I'm hungry, I'm like, oh man, I was having too much fun, gotta go eat. And it just makes you feel so much better. Like, even when you're in a shitty situation, you're like, it feels better to know that you took yourself into that situation knowing that there's more fun on either side, like, and you did it in the name of fun or whatever. And it doesn't necessarily have to be fun. It could be something as like constructive, like being constructive with your lifestyle, and beneficial.
I was just thinking, like, we're here right now, we're recording this on the grounds of the basically Walmart Museum, basically. Like, it's the Walmart funded, what is it, Crystal Bridges Museum. We just went inside, saw the temporary exhibition and the permanent exhibition, and it was great. It was really fun. So we're sitting here on the grounds of one of the biggest success stories in American history, right? Basically, like a new Rockefeller. Yeah. Now, of course, everyone's going to hate him because he has a big company now, right? Everybody likes losers, Losers are everybody's buddy, right? But the more you win, you don't have as many friends and people don't like you as much. You have to kind of be a total loser, then win a little bit, then they like you. But don't get too high. Don't keep going, because then everybody's going to hate you, right? So you have to learn to live with that if you want to succeed, right? But this guy right here where we're standing, this guy built, like a Rockefeller type situation in our lifetime. Pretty amazing. I read his book, Made in America. It was good. So here it is, 4th of July. We're sitting here, on the grounds with some guy who just sat in this location, basically, went Bentonville. And he's like, these stores suck. These local stores, everything's out of date. Everything's expensive. There's no prices on things. You walk in, you feel guilty if you don't buy. He's like, no, I'm making it modern. in the countryside. That's what he does. That's what Walmart's not New York. Walmart is Bentonville. It's, Boise. It's like smaller towns. And that's what it is. The bigger the town gets, the less likely there's going to be Walmarts. Now it's getting so big that they're everywhere. But for a long time, like 80% of their history was small towns.
And that's genius the way that you moved that around and tied it back into the entrepreneurial thing that we were talking about before, where you were saying, don't let, and because that positive thinking ties into that too, where you don't let like naysayers, like, if somebody, don't listen to people. Like if you've got a vision and you got a dream, which is, I'm sure, the Walmart situation where I'm sure he had plenty of people that told him he was doing it wrong or didn't know what he was doing or whatever. You know what I mean?
They probably said, like, you're not in New York,
Right.
What are you going to do from Bentonville? What kind of business, you know what I mean?
Right.
From this kind of place. Now, right now, it's pretty good business here because there's so much money from the Walton family and everybody else. Now it's grown, right? But imagine this place, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. Probably different, right?
Right, and
small town.
And so I'm sure in the entrepreneurial spirit, if you're going into something thinking, I want this to happen, you make it happen. You come from that positive, I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to figure it out, like nothing's going to get in my way, that fuck, I'm going to get it done.
I don't even think it's that. I think it's like I got a friend, he started a TV shopping channel in Nagoya, Japan. Nagoya is a very backwater part of Japan, essentially. It's the most backwater big city, right? And he started his channel there, so that when he built it up, when he finally got to Tokyo, then he went public and he's crazy successful, right? But the reason why nobody took him seriously is because he was in Nagoya. So he was building his thing. Mao Zedong did the same thing in his hometown. He built the army up, and then he came into the big cities, right? But they weren't ready for him. They weren't taking him seriously, right? So not many big businesses start in New York City, actually. Because it's too expensive. Same with LA. Everybody wants to. So they go to LA to start a business. They spend all this money on rent. But actually, it's places like this that are a better place to start a business. A, because you give yourself more time. And B, because no one's paying attention to you. And then you build it. You get the model right. You get it solid. You grow it. You learn that, whatever it is you need to learn, to hire people, whatever. And then when you come to the big, they're like, who the hell is this? What's this Walmart thing? It's like, we got Safeway and stuff. Walmart comes in, does well, right?
No, that was genius. I don't really have anything more to say on this, though, unless somebody else does. Scotty.
Again, I appreciate the feedback, the words of wisdom from Ronin and Billy and Chime Time. Outstanding. I'm reminded when Ronin was talking here in Arkansas about Sam Walton and the empire that he built with a dream way back when, I was reminded of a gentleman who was having lunch in Washington State, and he saw two of the top 5 richest guys on the planet, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, having lunch together. And it ties into what you both have said. The gentleman interrupted Bill Gates and Warren Buffett and said, hey, you guys are 2 of the top 5 richest guys on the planet. What has been the key to your success? They both uttered the same one-word answer at the same time. Focus. Focus with an emotional, positive attachment. I love it. Me personally, I can only speak personally because there are a lot of different views and everyone has their own way of saying things. I speak from the heart, and I know what's worked for me from a financial standpoint, going from completely effing broke to becoming a self-made man. So I know I would never think in terms of what I don't want, because I thought when I have to get out of debt, and when I focused on debt, I had more debt. When I started visualizing and going to open houses on the multi-million-dollar home that I want to own, things started to change. When I started test driving cars I could not afford, things started to change. And that ties into what you said as far as having a positive emotional attachment to what you want and where you're going. Again, it's powerful. The subconscious mind works 24/7. So again, we all tend to be our own worst critics. I get that, but be nice to yourself.
So you have to program it, is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Because you can't direct it. You have to lay down like the code, and you just have to keep it, like beat it into submission. You can't do it once. You can't tell and it listens. You have to keep hammering on it again and again until it learns. Yeah, I get that. I totally get that.
Yeah. Well, this is I don't know if I have per se anything to add, but more of a question, because I think I kind of have the concept down. I'm not, again, like you said, there's not an exact word for it.
Right.
So, but is the want somewhat associated with procrastination? Like I want this, but I'm procrastinating, or not necessarily?
No, I think the procrastination is just either laziness or a fear of either succeeding or not succeeding. It depends on your situation. No, the supplication that I'm talking about is like coming from this lack. Like if your mindset is I want this thing, and the focus is on I don't have, it's completely different from, oh hey, I want that. Like if you go into a grocery store and you're trying to figure out if you want to buy apples or bananas, and you're looking and the bananas are kind of green but the apples look, you're like, oh, I want that, and you just grab some. There's no like, oh, I wish I had apples, because they're right, you just grab them and you take them. But the supplication comes in where you feel that you don't have this thing, and or you need it, or you start attaching these emotions to specific outcomes, like negative emotions to specific outcomes. Whereas you could look at the exact same situation and think the same thing and say the same thing, but the positive aspect is, in some cases, it's determination. In some cases, it's just confidence. In some cases, it's just flipping it around, like in the case of the motorcycle, of looking for the path out instead of the hole. That's why I say positive thinking, because that's the best way I can describe it. Because anytime, I don't know, I know a negative feeling when I have it. And I've never done anything or created anything or made anything happen coming from that negative place. If I want to be productive, if I want to make something happen, I have to come from that positive energy that I'm just gonna make this fucking thing happen. And I guess a way that my dad taught it to me was, we were building my uncle's house, and we put the soffits in for the kitchen cabinets, and my aunt at the last minute changed the cabinets that she wanted. And so we had to change the soffit. So my dad takes me in the kitchen. He says, all right, this has got to come down. And, he gives me a couple of tools. And so I go up there and I start trying to cut the edge, because it was all drywalled in already. So trying to cut the edge where the drywall meets with the ceiling, and and my dad comes back after a couple of minutes. He goes, what the fuck are you doing? I said, taking the soffit down like you told me. He says, yeah, right. I told you to take that. You said you're fucking pussyfooting around. What are you talking about? So he picks up the sledgehammer and just starts beating that, like the whole ceiling shaking and stuff's falling, just like boom, boom, and hitting it. And I'm like, what? He goes, I told you to take the fucking thing down, like just hit it. You got this big sledgehammer. Like, but all the drywall and he goes, I built this whole fucking house. There isn't anything in here that you can break that I can't fix. Like, quit wasting your time fucking around. Just take the goddamn thing down. And that whole like, oh, I don't want to ruin this because I'm just trying to replace it. And then just fucking hit it. Just make shit happen. And he just had that positive, like, explosive, boom, I'm going to make this thing happen, or whatever happens, shakes out, I'll fix it after the fact. Don't fucking care. And that's kind of that positive, like, just fucking go, throw caution to the wind, gonna make this happen.
So wait, just really quick. When it comes to procrastination and stuff, it's the difference between leaning into something and actually taking that step. And like, I think what I'm understanding from Bill is just that there's a need for something to happen, and that's when you have that need, that's when you're going to take the step. So thinking positive is kind of leaning in that direction, but there's some kind of departure that just gets you, like, when it's enough that you need it, and you feel, if what you're doing is positive enough and you're feeling positive and everything's in line, that's what's going to encourage you to take that step.
Okay, I was just thinking exactly. He said, like, I was helping my friend Robert in Santa Cruz. I was up staying at his house one time, and he does concrete, right? So he was doing like a sidewalk on a walking street in Santa Cruz. If you've been there, there's that one walking street. Anyway, he was doing the sidewalk, and he said, you're handy. Why don't you just help me do the concrete? And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. He's like, don't worry, you'll be fine. So he hands me the like diamond saw, and I started using it, and I realized I could do it without breaking it, because I was just like, I'd never used it. It's real expensive, right? We had to rent it. So then anyway, he gave me a jackhammer. So I had this jackhammer that was, I think, diesel powered or something. Anyway, I was using it, and it ran out of diesel. So then he handed me, then he says, I got an electric one. So, but it comes out, it's like, and doesn't, this city concrete's a lot thicker than regular concrete, because it's like for public. So he hands me this one. I'm like sitting there, I'm trying to do, it's just taking forever, like just to get a little chunk off. And I said, is there any other way we can do this? And he's like, yeah, I mean, no one does it, but there's the sledgehammer. So then I was like, well why don't let me try the sledgehammer. And he's like, no, like we got to do this whole sidewalk all the way. He's like, no way. He's like, but I said, well, just give it to me. Let me see if I can, try. So I just took it, and then I just went wham, and I like broke the concrete like quite a bit, like a foot worth of it. And it taken me like a long time just to do a couple inches, right? And then I was just like, that felt good. So I just like started wham, wham, like a total psycho. I'm just like slamming the thing down. I took the whole sidewalk out. And all the other workers, because they were professionals, right? So they knew that this is too hard for today. You don't do this. But I didn't know that.
Right.
And I was really getting into like I was swinging it so that the weight was like at the end, like, so it was like centrifugal force. I was swinging it, and then it would just like come bam, crushing down. It would just like crack that concrete. And I was really enjoying it, When I finished, I wanted to do another sidewalk, Yeah, I was like really into it. Like I still want to get a sledgehammer. Yeah, it was like really fun, I'm glad I didn't hit my foot, But anyway, like, so sometimes you get too professional when you forget that you can just get stuff done. Just get a sledgehammer, You don't need this stuff that everybody has. Just get stuff done, just like you were saying. Just like just do it. Just
do it.
Yeah. There's always a way to do something,
Yeah, but the key is that mindset. That just set your mind to it. That positive energy that we're talking about. That just do it. That not thinking about it, not talking about it. I mean, there's time for thinking and there's a time for doing. But when you want to get something done, it's that creative, like explosive. We're just gonna make this happen. Nothing's gonna get in my way. I'm not thinking about what I want. We're making it happen. And that's a feeling thing. Like you got to feel it inside of you. You can't just say it or like. I don't know how else, but there's this positive, when I'm getting shit done, there's this positive energy that just like, fuck it, and making stuff happen.
I just had a simple little story about a Jeep Wrangler that I restored a while back, and I built it while my relationship was like going to shit, and then right about the time I finished it, I broke up, and like a bunch of other things happened in my life, but then like 2 weeks later, a guy crashes into this Jeep, and it was perfect. It was like fully restored. And I looked at it and I just laughed. It was like, what the fuck? That was crazy. Totally mangled it. I'll show you a picture of it. All right. And then the next day I was pissed. I was like, oh, fuck. I got to deal with insurance and stuff. That Jeep sat in my driveway, and I just looked at it for a month, and I was miserable. Because of all I didn't care about the Jeep. I didn't care about the parts, what I spent on it. I cared about the time that I had into it. That sucked. But then one day I was just like, okay, well, these are the good parts that are in it. And I was thinking about all the good that I had left. The wheels, the tires, the engine still ran. The front end wasn't smashed. I just said fuck it, and I got my Sawzall and I cut it into pieces in my driveway. My neighbors like came over and like they called the code enforcement guy, and he like made a big deal out of it. He said, you got to get this cleaned up right now. So I ended up with a Jeep Wrangler cut up into pieces in my guest bedroom, and like an engine on the workbench, and like wheels in the bed of my truck because I didn't have much room, and I got on Craigslist and found a frame and found a tub that was rusted out, but the metal was good from mine. I rebuilt it from the ground up in 5 months. I worked on it not every day, but almost every day after work, and then like on weekends I just ground it out, and I managed some little bit of social life. It was at the end of the relationship, so I was like lonely and it sucked, but I had this like pissed off positive energy, and I threw it into that Jeep, and
that was exactly what you needed at that point in time, right?
It must have been. It felt pretty good, and now I got this cool Jeep that I can drive around, and honestly, I don't care if it gets crashed into again, or I could sell it. I realized after the end of it, it was like, fuck this thing. I really don't care about it. I just liked doing the work, so that was kind of a lesson in of itself. Like,
yeah, that's a huge one.
Yeah, like at this point, I could even let it go. I really don't care. If somebody crashes into it, that would suck. I hope that doesn't happen, but that energy was fucking awesome.
Right.
I didn't just like bitch about it and, oh, this thing got destroyed.
And you thought it was a terrible thing at first.
It sucked.
It sounded like it was exactly what you needed at that point in time to get you through what you were going through.
When it got crashed into and I looked at it, I just started laughing. I was like, no way, that was crazy. It didn't even look real. And then looking at it in my driveway all smashed up, it looked like a cartoon version of it or something. It was really wild. I'll show you a picture of it, but
Yeah, that's awesome.
that energy was cool. I want to put that energy into something more meaningful than a Jeep Wrangler, though. Yeah, because I have a shitload of that energy, but like at this point, like what do I put that energy towards? I need to figure that out.
You locked into the key right there, which is that you started off with oh fuck, that negative feeling, and then you just said, fuck it, what do I?
I just went and bought some Sawzall blades and fuck this thing. cut it up, and all the bad went to the curb, and the code enforcement showed up, and it was kind of funny.
That's an excellent example of exactly what I was talking about. That is like spot on.
Oh fuck, from like this sucks fucking, not you personally, but a despair type possible thing to, you know what, we're gonna fucking rebuild this motherfucker now.
Yeah,
just flip it around.
What I say is that, like, you're asking how can you, or what do you I'm not sure if you're like what you're asking, but what like you could be asking is like where you redirect that energy. You've figured out how to perform the art of positivity, but now your next step is just figuring out how you want to apply that art towards, and asking yourself what I want to apply it towards.
Right. It's like when you see a spring out in the woods, and like the water's coming up. It's always coming up, but it's just spilling out everywhere. How can I direct that?
Well, what I'm saying is that you got the talent. You got the talent, kid. you just gotta figure it out.
Well, what does he need? What did Scotty P just say?
Focus.
Yeah,
and I waste a lot of that energy too. I waste that time. So how can I stop doing that?
Well, what I'll tell you about where you already are, because like there's a lot to it, is that there's magic that you can only experience, and an advantage that you can only experience when you're able to perform at the level of like positivity. Your positivity got you to a point where you can enjoy the Jeep again.
Yeah.
Like,
I'll drive it. I almost drove it here. I almost drove it here, but I can't sleep in it. So like the truck, I wanted to.
And this is, to me, this is a core MGTOW value, because what do? You know, as the world appears to be disintegrating around us, are we sitting around crying, going, oh shit, like the legal system's fucked up?
I don't have time
No,
for that.
I don't have time for that. Don't give a fuck. Like, what's my path forward? Where's my life going? How do I keep walking that path in the right direction? Like, I don't care. Let the world disintegrate around me. That has nothing to do with me.
Can't control it.
This is my thing. This is how I move forward.
I think there's one key thing that younger guys don't know and older guys don't think about, because you got to be real old to think of this one. Think of the Depression. Like in the Depression, it was much worse than now, obviously. And then even then it will be in a few years. No matter what happens, it's not going to be the Depression. And the people in the Depression that, I mean, the world always comes back. So it's like, you know, like whatever's happening is like not forever. So it's like the people that were in the Depression thinking, what am I going to do when this thing comes out? How am I going to take advantage? How am I going to get some land? How am I going to get a business? How am I going to, you know, those are the guys that did very well. They always do well. Whereas the other people, they're just jumping off buildings. I lost my money, you know, or whatever, you know. It's like, and also the other thing is the Grapes of Wrath in that book. A lot of people didn't help each other, but the final scene was when that.
Where
the baby
young
is
woman,
yeah,
and she's breastfeeding the old man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. It's two people helping each other, two strangers.
Yep.
Right. So that was the thing. And that was how the Depression came through, right?
Neighbors helping, or communities banding together. Is that what you mean? Like,
well, I think there's two things. There's two ways to think about it. One is I'm going to do it no matter fucking what, myself, no matter what, if anybody's there. But there's other people in the world, and it would be stupid for me to say, fuck you guys, I'm going to do it by myself. You know, all you guys are here. You guys are cool. You know, I'm going to go in the forest and, you know, do my internet business out there, you know, or whatever, you know. Like, I'm going to make a new internet out there, you know, mine some copper, you know. Yeah, exactly. They can buy something, you know, trading, whatever, you know. So that's it. It's a combination of you're going to do yourself and you don't need anybody, but also you know, it's insane not to notice there's a lot of people around you, you know, that you can work with, right? So that's what, and help, right? And that's how you know, that's what we're doing here, right?
you don't need anybody specific, but you're willing to take anybody willing along for the ride.
Hello, Stingray. Yes, I think that's exactly right. And to bring that back to Bill's point, which is kind of what I was thinking, but I didn't know where to put it in, was that so when you're focused on the desired outcome, way more people can step in to help you. Like if you're just focused on like the undesired outcome, and I just want to avoid that, it's difficult because I mean it can be done with like the drink or whatever, but it makes it more challenging because it's specific but a negative. Like the groceries are like, I don't want whatever food. Well, who can help? Who can go to the grocery store and help you with that?
Other guys don't drink; they help you.
Gotcha.
That's it. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. And to Chime's thing too, like once you gotta focus in on the desired outcome, the more specific it is to me, I think kind of the better for other people to step in and help. Like as soon as you're like, okay, I don't want crappy food, people are like, oh, okay. But then when you're like the Pensacola, we want really good Mexican. Boom. I got it. I can help you with that. Like this is the desired outcome. It's relatively specific, and once you do that, then other people can kind of step in and assist you way easier than if like again, if you're just focused on the undesired outcome, and I want to avoid that, it's kind of difficult because then what is desired is like a wide open area. It's not really very hard for people to help you unless you are focused on exactly what Bill's saying. Desired outcome.
Yeah, and that brings up another excellent point that you can even relate this into your day-to-day dealings with people. I mean, in very basic dealings. Like I'm just talking about like ordering coffee. Like I would order coffee with cream and no sugar, and how many times I did that and got sugar in my coffee. And it's like, listen, 0, no sugar. Do you understand? Yes, I understand, no sugar. And you wind up with sugar. So you just say cream only, because that's I want coffee with cream only. And then you get coffee with cream only because you're not you add that negative focus and somebody's brain gets locked on the sugar and then you wind up with
Leave
sugar.
out the undesired.
Right, yeah.
In India, when I got tea, masala tea, they would never give me no sugar. They just couldn't do it. Like it was in the 90s, right? Indians just could not comprehend of no sugar. So finally, I said no sugar, and then the guy was making it for me, and he was like dumping sugar in it. And so I stopped, and I said, I stopped his hand, and I go, no sugar. And he looks at me, goes, there will be no flavor. And I said, no flavor. And he goes, no flavor. And then he gives me the coffee, the tea. Yeah. And then every time I went to, I said, no flavor. And they were like, I was like, no sugar, no flavor. And they're like, okay, no flavor. So he said sometimes he needs vocabulary,
I thought I liked coffee. Turns out I like coffee creamer.
So, yeah, no, that was excellent.
Yeah.
But so that's all I got on this really, unless somebody else has something.
I was gonna say one thing I forgot to say. That code enforcement guy that lit me up. He has a Jeep the same year, and we ended up being friends, and we go off-roading occasionally. That was kind of funny.
That is.
I mean, that's right up there with me talking about like
Random. That's funny. Random.
When you're positive,
Yeah.
you attract the other positive people. Like, there's, I mean,
cut me a break, so that's kind of fun.
yeah, no, that's pretty rad. And if you don't think positive, like, there's a whole part of your life that you're gonna miss out on. And there's so many abilities that you're gonna miss out on too. Like, you will not be whole unless you learn how to do this. You're gonna be missing stuff. Like, sorry to take it in such a severe route, but that's the way it is.
But that what you're doing is exactly what we were saying.
Yep.
You don't drink, like, don't not do this, right? So there's always two ways to hit a motivation. One is clean the toilet because it looks better. One is see all that shit in there? That smells terrible. You don't want that. You know what I mean? Like, it's better if that's not there, right? And you want a clean one. Okay. It's just two ways it's the same thing.
Same exact
Two sides of the same coin. Yeah.
So I know Steve already has it, and he knows like the art of it, but those who don't have the art of like mastered, or not even mastered, or just like started, they haven't like introduced themselves to like this thinking of positivity or inspiration. Like, how do you begin doing it? I guess it's just thinking that need, that is, it's a need to complete yourself and make yourself whole, and that's how you're going to move into that way of thinking. That should be your motivation if you haven't gotten to that step. Now, thinking of what your end goal is the next step, but the first step should just be like, I need to make myself whole. I need to find this new way of thinking so that I can just get to the next level.
And the key is the feeling. Like, you can't eliminate the feeling from it. Like, and I believe I heard, like, when you just change the feel, like, the situation didn't change, the feeling changed. That from the negative to the positive, not that, oh shit, my Jeep is fucked, like, okay, I'm gonna fix it.
It almost didn't really matter that the end result happened. It really didn't matter either way. What mattered is I said, fuck it, I'm gonna do this.
And that's when the world of possibilities opens up to you.
I wouldn't have been able to finish that otherwise.
Well, one of the key. Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm just gonna, so in the comments, say what Steve should focus on.
One of the key things is, God damn, I just forgot what I was gonna say. Fuck, I had it. It was good. Fuck. Oh well, I'll come
One of the
back.
key things for inspiration on how to get started, or what to find, or what the end goal is, would that be around
I
anything?
totally forgot.
It's
Just give me a
okay.
second.
Ronin always comes back to it. Unfortunately, I don't really have anything at the moment either.
No, I think because too many. I mean, it's
I got it. So, okay, so you were saying, now we're talking about real change, right? So it's not that simple to get a change. So everything you do is for a reason. So the reason why you don't change your business, there's good reasons. You're not irrational. You've got very good reasons. The reason is probably because you're going to piss your brother off. Your mom won't like that you piss your brother off. Where are you going to live? Is he going to be angry forever? You know what? You've got a lot of times why we don't do stuff is because we know that if we do it, that a lot of stuff's going to happen that we don't want to happen. So the way that you get to change is you have to face that. This is the thing. This is the key reason why people don't change. This is it right here. Every time you can't change, don't say, I got to do it. I know what I need to do. No, you don't know. What you say is, there's a very good reason. Just say to yourself, really, say, I'm an intelligent man. I know what I do stuff. Like when I'm hungry, I just go eat, right? When I'm sleepy, I just go to bed. There's nothing complicated about that. If I don't do something, there is something that I realize I'm going to have to face something. I'm going to have to pay some price. There's something that's going to change. There's going to be some unknowns. It's going to cost money. I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe you might not even have a solution. If you live with your parents, for example, and you're going to confront them on something, the very strong reality is they might say, well, that's fine, but you can't live with us or something like that, right? So you have to face some pretty harsh reality. So that's why people don't leave their wives. That's why people don't do things, is because they're like, well, I would leave her, but their subconscious mind knows there's a lot of pain coming. Like, just got the house done, probably have to sell the house. Am I going to see the kids ever again? And so the key thing is you have to write it down. You have to say, okay, just don't even try to change. Just write down the things that will go wrong if you do this thing. And then just start really thinking about those things and be really ready to face those things, or to have a plan for a timing to face those things. Because that's what's really stopping you. It's not you're dumb. It's not you're lazy. It's not you're not motivated. It's not you're negative. You actually are intelligent. That's why you're not doing it. Because you're like, shit, I might never see my kids again. And so it can be very dark facing these things. But the thing is, don't waste your life. If you can't change it, if you're going to stay with her, stay with her. It's not the end of the world. You know what I mean? You're not you don't have to hurt, but just face it, and then just say, okay, I'm going to stay with her for this time. And, it's for this reason. And I know why. I want to be with my kid. And then once you make that decision, now all of a sudden you've been honest with yourself. Now all of a sudden the wheels start to turn as you go about, and you start meeting people who say, oh, there was another way to do it. Or maybe you could work out this kind of deal. Or maybe, you see another house, or you start to see solutions once you start facing things. So it's not like you face it, you do it right now. Just face it. Just face that there's going to be a price to pay. And that's why you, as an intelligent man, are not doing exercise, are not investing in a house, are not getting divorced, or whatever it is that you feel like you should do. And why you're not getting a new haircut, why you're not, whatever the hell it is. So I think that's work on those things. Then once you get past those things, all this stuff, just like whoosh, grease lightning.
And I think an important thing that he's touching on there is the feeling aspect of it, the emotional aspect, because as men, we're just so frequently do we push through stuff. I mean, this is what I talked about with the yoga the other day and stuff, where we just like, fuck it, I'm just going to push forward. What he's touching on here is this, and what you were talking about there is that the same exact situation, just, okay, if I go into this thing and I'm feeling this like real negative energy, like look at it take a step back, look at it a different way, try to flip it around, like, okay, well, if I can't and I'm staying here, then what's the, just look for the positive path and keep going at this thing until you get something where you get the feeling inside you where your thought patterns and your actions are jiving with your intent and having everything line up like that. But if you're going into this thing with this negative, like, well, I want this thing and I'm just going to push through, but you have this negative emotion with you, I'm not going to say you can't do it, but your task is just monumentally more difficult. And I really think, I don't want to speak for Ronin on that, but I kind of feel like that's a little bit about like what he was.
Plug the Milwaukee Sawzall in and cut the bad shit out. Then you're left with parts or something you could build with what's left.
Right, but you change
more fun to just rebuild it again.
Right, and what the whole impetus of all that was you changing the way that you looked at going from a negative place to a positive place and just changing the way you looked at the exact same situation.
It's kind of fun.
Yeah. So.
Looking for the positive path.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Wow, that was like an incredible talk. Thank you, Bill, for coming out of that one. Thank you, Ronin Man, for choosing Bill for that one. That was like the golden bullet. I really like this one. And this is MGTOW Summit, Ozarks. It's July 4th. This is like the most American weekend. We're about to get some fireworks. We just went walking in the museum. We saw a whole bunch of modern art, some Black Lives Matter stuff. Everything's right with the time. We're taking it all in. This is America.
America. Yeah, we're going to blow some shit up. Yeah, that's very. All right, guys. Thanks.